Hi, this is Dr. Kimberley Linert, author of Visualizing Happiness in Every Area of Your Life and host of this podcast, Incredible Life Creator. And today I have with me Mr. Michael G. Whitehouse. Hey, Michael.
Hello.
So happy to have you. I love your colorful background.
Thank you.
So, yeah, but just so people know you, I'm going to read your bio and then we'll get into your story.
Sounds good.
So, you know how many people hate networking because it feels stressful and unproductive? Michael Whitehouse, the guy who knows a guy, teaches people to network profitably with ease, starting from knowing no one when he moved to, I think it's Groton,
Correct.
Connecticut in 2014. He was able to become a major local connector within a few months. Putting all he had learned into his book in 2017, he came to be known as the guy who knows a guy, which is the title of his book. In 2020, the pandemic gave him the greatest test and opportunity, launching him into a much larger global network of online business. Today, he creates spaces to build connections, including JV Connect, the dedicated virtual networking event, and a variety of awesome virtual interactive events throughout the year. Michael is the author of The Guy Who Knows a Guy and The View from the Deck, Thoughts on Values, Vision, and Gratitude, and has interviewed over 150 experts on the host of the Guy Who Knows a Guy podcast. He has been interviewed on over 100 podcasts, summits, and other shows, 101 or 100 and however. So thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me. Great to be here.
So I'd love to hear your story, wherever you want to start.
Let's see. Well, I was born a small boy in a hospital. Oh, wait, too far back. That's further back in the interesting part. Jump forward a bit. So, as mentioned in 2014, I became the guy who knows a guy, so to speak, when I moved out to Groton. But the part of my story that is different from typical would really probably begin in 2002 when I graduated college. And I've got a little bit of ADHD, kind of like my hair is a little bit white. And so being impatient and young and stupid, I mean, full of myself, I mean, whatever, pick which one you like. I said, I don't need to go through this job search process. This is a pain and it's dumb and I got to go through hoops. I don't want to do that. I'll just make my own job because I knew everything. I was 22. So I launched a game store, board games, role-playing games, that sort of thing. And it was wildly successful, except for never making any money.
Oh.
So I had this idea that I should build a community space and that would be profitable because it would be community space. Now, community can be profitable if done correctly. I was 22, so correctly was not a thing I knew how to do. I knew how to do what I wanted and ignore all the actual evidence in front of me. And I ran a space that created a great community. And from that game store actually evolved a sci-fi convention called PyCon and a Rocky Horror Picture Show cast. And by one measure, many of these endeavors were not entirely successful. The business eventually ran out of money. I got a $6,000 inheritance at one point that I basically turned into smoke, not literally smoke, but like where to go.
Okay.
Because I didn't know, what I was doing and how to manage money and any of that kind of stuff. But on the other hand, I learned a lot in that process that has been the foundation of what I do now. And one thing I've certainly learned is while there's things that I would not do again if given the chance to try it again, I'd do it differently. I would not go back and change anything because everything that is now is because of what is then. So, for example, the Rocky Horror Picture Show cast, I was on stage 150 times over the course of 3 years. That's why I have no stage fright. I can get in front of any stage, anytime, talk about anything, ready to go. No problem. I learned a lot about group dynamics, learned a lot about leadership, mostly through my own mistakes. And I said, oh, shouldn't lead that way. Well, shouldn't lead that way either. Oh, definitely shouldn't lead that way. That was definitely not a way to lead. So I eventually ran out of bad ways to lead and finally now know some good ones. So, a lot of what I know now came from there. In 2008, the store, but 2005, we converted it from a for-profit into a quasi nonprofit, like volunteer-run hybrid chimera. And then in 2008, we closed the for-profit business and opened a nonprofit business, which that continued to run for about 10 years. 6 of those years were after I had left that area and was doing other things. So I then did a bunch of random jobs, which we can get into, but they're not really important. Sold cars, printing, other stuff. 2014, moved to Groton. Went to my first networking event the day before I got moved into my apartment. So I moved into this area. I got no job, no business, nothing to sell, nothing to offer. The only thing I had to offer was introductions to other people I've met, which wasn't that many because I just got there. But no one else does. In networking, everyone's there to sell you something or they're to offer you something. I had nothing to sell. So I had to do it right. I had to start with a position of serving. And people liked that vibe. It started introducing me to people. And before I knew it, I was well connected. I wrote the book so I could be an author, literally, because as soon as you put something up on KDP, you're an author. Doesn't matter what's in it, what it says. If it's any good, you're still an author.
Right.
As my mother once said, what do you call the guy who graduates last in his medical school class? Doctor. So, but I think my book is better than that. I think it's actually pretty decent. I've had people read the book and then say, I'd like to do business with you. So apparently it's okay. But I was still sort of lost in the wilderness, mostly because I kept trying to get jobs. I'm like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I just, look at my track record. I shouldn't be doing my own thing. I got to work for someone else. 2020 came. I was selling, I was publishing a local magazine, a couple local magazines, doing, there was maybe some opportunity, maybe. And all my sales were from in-person networking. And I couldn't do in-person networking in 2020. So I was trying to figure out how do I sell this thing in a different way, learned how to sell coaching because, what is the industry that knows how to sell online? Coaching. So I learned how to sell coaching, which would have been great if I was a coach, but I was a magazine publisher. And we tried to use it for the magazine, didn't work, not a transferable technique. Guy who taught it to me said, why not be a coach? You seem smart, you can help people, whatnot. Use the technique, sold 10 clients in 10 weeks. Boom. Except for one little problem. Wasn't a coach. Didn't know how to serve. 8 out of 10 of those clients dropped me after a month. But I made just enough money for just long enough for me to say, you know what? I don't need this magazine thing anymore. I'm out of here. I'm going to do my own thing. So, but from there, I said, I'm going to do it my way. I've been struggling for years. And I've been trying to work for other people, follow their system. If I'm going to struggle, I might as well struggle my way. It's going to be more fun, right? And I'll cover the difference with Uber and DoorDash and whatever. And I'm just going to keep looking till I find it. And over the course of 4 years, I've been more and more finding it, learned how to run virtual summits, virtual events, learned how to took that networking skills that I developed in the in-person space, took it online. And, I just now came back from a mastermind that I was invited to down in Orlando, invited to speak at in Orlando, where there were some fairly successful and influential individuals there. Learned a lot. And it's really been, and it's funny too, because I'm thinking like, yeah, I'm still kind of struggling, still working at it. Then I look at the actual numbers and I say, I am making almost double what I was making publishing the magazine. So I guess I'm doing okay, following my own path, one could say. And didn't get invited to any masterminds when I was doing the magazine. So it's been quite an adventure, and I could keep going, but I'm going to pause now and let you ask a question, see where you want to take it.
Well, thank you. Well, you've been quite entertaining so far, so I appreciate that.
Yep.
And I did, I think you've had a lot of speaking background, so.
Oh, yeah, once or twice.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm interested in the summit. So I actually was invited to one of your summits by Pastor Daryl. And it was actually in some ways, he was supposed to be inviting me to some other link and he gave me that link and I enjoyed the whole thing. It's awesome. I'm like,
so he invited you to the summit by accident.
Yeah.
If you believe in accidents.
That's right. It was great. And I got to hear or Pastor Daryl's story and some other people's stories. So it was wonderful. But how do you, over the last few years, especially since 2020, there are people putting together summits to the point where it's like, oh, another summit. So what do you do with your summits to set them apart?
Well, I run summits that don't suck. So so as I mentioned, one of the things that Phoenix Games, my game store, led into was PyCon, which is a sci-fi convention. I'd actually been running those kinds of events in one way or another since 1996. And by running, I mean in 1996, I operated a Spotlight, but it got me a staff badge, and that may be part of it. So I'm saying I've been running events since 1996. So I love the energy of an event and the people and the connections and the run of show and all that kind of stuff. But going to live events is expensive. If you get a free ticket to an event, it's $1,000 or more. You got to get there, you got a hotel, food, the whole thing, and then you got to pay for the ticket. Whew, can be $2,000, $3,000, $5,000. So I've been seeing all these events. I'm like, oh, I wish I could go to that. That looks great. I could. I'm in Southeast Connecticut, which not a lot happens here. Up in Hartford, Providence, something around there, but not a lot happening here. So I'd be hearing about these business events, but I couldn't go to them. And then the pandemic hit, and I was like, everything's online. This is amazing. First, I started going to BNI groups all over the world. I went to one in Malaysia and one in Australia and England and networking all over the world. And then I realized all the in-person events went online. Mm-hmm. So I saw one and I was like, oh, great. The speakers, and this is going to be so exciting. So I filled out the information. You put in your name, put in your email address. It tells you go to this link at this time. And I went to the link at that time. And up comes this website, and there's a box there, like, a video window, and there's someone talking, blah, 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 blah. And there's what looks like a chat box, and I put something in the chat, and it didn't appear. And I put something else in the chat, and it didn't appear. I now realize in retrospect, this was probably a live event, which means it was actually recorded, but made to look like it was happening live. It was a fake. It was a lie. So that was the first event I attended. I then went to some others that were on Zoom, so they were definitely live, but I'd get in there and the speakers would speak and the MCs would speak, and then they go on a break, and I'd be like, so can I talk to people in the break? No, you can't. They lock the chat, they put up a slide, they lock the whole event for 15 minutes, go take a break, come back, and then pay attention to us. So all these events I went to were little better than a YouTube playlist. I attended another event that was a pre-recorded summit, which I don't think deserves the word event, because it's not an event. It's content. Now, pre-recorded summits are great for what they are. They're list building activities. If you need information, it's a lot of information you can consume. But I want an event. I'm a hyper extrovert. On a scale of 1 to 10, where like 1 is introvert and 10 is extrovert, I'm about at 12.4. So I want my people. So the recorded events, I went to one of those, and up pops like a list of videos, and like this could be a podcast. That old joke, like this could have been an email, this could have been a podcast, this could have been a YouTube playlist. And I said to myself, if I was ever to run an event, I would create some sort of analog for the hallway, because that's where the real action happens at an event, right? If someone comes back from an event, they say, oh, what was great about the event? Well, I met this person in the hallway, and I met this person right after. I met this person on the way to the bathroom. And then one of the speakers said something, and I talked to him afterwards, and we're going to be collaborating. That's the cool thing. I went to a mastermind this past week, and I learned a bit from the speakers, but I learned more from the interaction, and even more from the stuff off the program where I was like talking to people, because that's how every event is. That's where the action is. And when the events went online, they suffered from what I call the DJ fallacy, disc jockey. Because if you know DJs, like the kind of DJs who play at clubs, they're all into music. They know each beat pattern and styles and energy levels, and this one's more up and this one's more down. You got to put these together and whatnot. And they know about it and they care about it so much. And it is so sad that nobody else cares. But they think everybody else cares because they really care. And they know how to fill the dance floor and empty the dance floor and, get people out there and then give them a rest. But no one in the crowd knows. So I saw a lot of DJs in 2020 go online and be like, I'm just going to spin my sets online. It's going to be just as good. Why is nobody watching me? Because you wouldn't go to a club without music, but you don't go to a club for the music. The music is what fills it out. You go for the people, for the dancing, the talking, the engagement, all the stuff that comes around it that the music is necessary for. Same thing with an event with speakers. You'll rarely go to an event for the speakers. There might be a speaker that makes you attend. You wouldn't go to the event without speakers, but the speakers aren't what make it great. The speakers make it good. The people, the connections make it great. So I then realized I could run an event. It's a virtual event, not a lot of overhead. I came across a platform called Slingshow. And what Slingshow did is that it let you have self-directed breakout space, self-directed networking spaces. So you could click on a table and go join that table. And it gave you something similar to like being out in the hallway and walking around talking to different people. So I ran an event in 2021 called Conference 21 that celebrated the not 2020-ness of 2021. Remember back when we thought that on January 1st, 2021, everything would be okay again? So I started playing this in November 2020, and like, it's Conference 21. It was February 20th to 21st, 2021, $21. It was originally going to be 21 speakers, and I overshot, got 28 speakers. But it's going to be all 21s all around. We got like 130 people in attendance. I don't remember how many registered. So, that was a great event. I was like, this is amazing. Then I ran one in May, and it got about 60 people. Less amazing. Still a good event. Less amazing. Then I ran one in August, and it got 17 people, which is a problem because we had 18 speakers. 18 speakers, 2 didn't show up, 1 attendee showed up. And I spoke to my speakers afterwards. I'm like, sorry, this event was really a flop. It didn't work. And they're, what are you talking about? This event was amazing. I met this guy. I learned a lot from this one. I'm going to be partnering with him. I'm buying his program. He's buying my program. And that's when I realized that, as the children's cartoons might say, the real treasure was the friends we made along the way. Mm-hmm. Because the real power of it is the connections being made. And that's when I discovered that the worst case scenario of this event, of an interactive event, is a mastermind. If you run a summit and it's interactive and nobody shows up, you just ran a mastermind, because the speakers are going to connect with each other. Mm-hmm. In fact, that's happened today. The event we had today, for various reasons, it wasn't a high priority for me to make sure it hit good numbers. We actually had 6 speakers instead of 10, which meant we only had about 12 people on the call instead of, I usually get 20 to 40, sometimes 50. We had 12. But it was still a great event because it was more of a mastermind. After each speaker, we did more of like a back and forth kind of asking questions, supporting each other, hot seats, that kind of stuff. The people who were there loved it just as much. I would have liked 3 times as many. That builds my email list better. But the people who were there, it was great. They had a great time. They enjoyed it. They got a lot of value out of it, and I enjoyed running it. So, from learning from Conference 21, I then connected with Event Raptor that Steve Erickson runs. That gave me a tool that made it easy to run events. Conference 21 was a headache to run. I was doing it on Kartra, to build the websites, build everything myself. After the third one of those, I'm like, oh, this is not worth it. Then I found Event Raptor. It does all the work for me. Mm-hmm. I just fill in, some of the details, add some graphics, and boom, summit ready to go. And that's how I can now run 26 summits a year, because I have robots that do a lot of the work for me. And so once I had that tool, then I could start experimenting and playing around. If you look at the list of summits I run, it's all kinds of stuff. I run something called Entrepreneured, which is the overlap of entrepreneurship and geek stuff. Mm-hmm. So Star Wars, Star Trek, fun stuff like that, and business. Mm-hmm. I ran the Kingdompreneur Summit. I'm starting to do more with like Christian business, faith-based business. I run events around speakers, events around course creation, events around sales and marketing, events around networking. That's what today's was. Events around whatever. I ran one called the Blue Purple Summit. This graphic you see behind me. Mm-hmm. This, I actually got this. It's a stock image. I got it for the Blue Purple Summit. Blue Purple Summit came about because I was looking at my Facebook community, my friends, and said, I think I know enough women with blue or purple hair who are experts in their space that I could fill a summit with them. And I posted that on Facebook as a joke. And the comments came in, well, what's the date and where's the application?
That's great.
So I messaged them like, you serious? You want to speak on that? Like, heck yeah, I want to speak on that. So in 2022, I ran the Blue Purple Summit, the theme of which was women with blue and purple hair. Amazing event. And the funny thing is, whenever you do something, you have to brand it. People have to know what to expect. Mm-hmm. Right? When I run the Authentic Marketing Summit, people have a decent idea what that's going to be. It's going to be about authentic marketing. You might not know exactly, but you have an idea. Mm-hmm. If you're too vague, if you try to get too clever, if you're like, oh, it's the Two Ferns Summit, what the heck does that mean? Mm-hmm. The Blue Purple Summit, and we explained, in the graphic, like, this is what it is. People knew what it was, because there's a certain type of person who is an entrepreneurial woman who dyes their hair blue or purple.
Right.
But like, I want to hang out in that vibe. That's the
Uh,
right vibe of people I want to hang out with. It was actually one of my more successful ones
mhm.
because people, they like that vibe. They were into it. So I've now run, I think the one I ran today was my 44th, 45th, 43rd, somewhere in there, somewhere in the 40s. So I've run quite a few events. I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about how to do it, how not to do it. And the key thing is it's about the connections being made. So everything I do is about making the connections. The schedule is a little bit loose. You know, if someone's scheduled for 2 o'clock, they might speak at 1:55. They might speak at 2:55. They might speak at 2. Sometimes we're on time.
Mhm.
But if I feel like now's a good time for a hot seat, we're going to do a hot seat. I feel like now's time for a breakout, we're going to do a breakout. We're not a slave to the schedule. It's all about creating a space where people can connect and get that human engagement, learn from each other, network, collaborate. And that's what really makes the event great. I don't make a great event. I create a space, I create a container in which 20, 30, 40, 50 people make a great event with me,
Yeah.
led by the speakers and supported by the audience. So we create a collaborative space. And that's really the magic of it, is that I create that collaborative space. And the reason I was able to do it is I didn't know what I was doing. Most people who run events, they start from, okay, so we're going to get the maximum number of opt-ins, get the maximum number of conversions through the funnel, blah, 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 blah. And that's what they're good at. That's where they start. And then say, oh, see if we can make it interesting. But they're making it interesting because interesting creates more opt-ins and creates more engagement, and more engagement creates more sales.
Mhm.
I didn't know how to do that. So I just said, let's make it more interesting. And I started from there. And to some degree, that's the same reason my game store failed. I said, I want to create, forget the business stuff. I want to create, the space. But with the summits, what's happening is that people are getting fed up with these other summits because they're optimized for sales. There's too many of them. The
Mhm.
first time you go, you're like, I learned so much. The third time, you're like, I learned a lot of the same things and I want my 3 days back.
Mhm.
So now the next step is going to be collaborating with people who are experts in the marketing, copywriting, bringing all the people.
Mhm.
And with those collaborations, it's going to be the same kind of high engagement space, just with a lot more people in it.
Mhm.
So that's really the secret to what I do is I never set it about to do what most summits do. It does that. It
Mhm.
does, it builds my list. It gets me sales opportunities. Anyone who hires me to run one, they get in front of 20 to 40, 50 people, and have the opportunity to make an offer to them and convert them. And, it's certainly valuable. But it's not optimized for that, which is why the audience members say, this is the best summit I've ever been to,
Mhm.
because it's optimized to be the best summit they've ever been to. Same with JV Connect.
Mhm.
It's most networking events, not like 1 hour membership things, but a 1 day, 2 day, 3 day thing.
Mhm.
They're meant to sell something. They're meant to do something else. The networking is the attraction, not the product. JV Connect, I said, I want to make the best networking event ever made on the internet because I want to attend the best networking event ever made on the internet. Really hoping someone steals it so I can then go to theirs. But alas, no one's stolen it yet. But so it's optimized that way. And by doing that, people come out and say, that was the best network event I've ever been to. And then the business side of it is I bring in sponsors, and the sponsors are able to make offers, or I have partnerships with various people. But everything yields to making it a great event. So if a sponsor like, hey, if I could just do this, I can make more money. Great. But you can't, because that would compromise what the event is. And that would defeat the purpose of the whole game.
Mhm. Yeah, so cool. So, like I said, I went to one of your events and I already, connected with people there. When we went into those breakout rooms, yeah, I definitely connected, exchanged
Mm-hmm.
phone numbers, you know, already working together on things. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Put good people in proximity and good things happen.
Exactly. And it makes it more personal because, like you said, once we're online, first of all, we're going to stay online a lot of times. I mean, I went to a charity event on Saturday, and that was wonderful because I connected with a bunch of my friends that I hadn't seen in sometimes 3 years or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to see them and hug them. And that's the best. But because we're so virtual now and people are so busy, this is the next best thing where you can
Mm-hmm.
actually have a conversation with people.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, we are post-pandemic. I just
Mhm.
went down to Orlando. Everyone's flying, masks are off. The pandemic's over.
Right.
Uh, but this being on Zoom, this is because we're now choosing to be here. People don't want to go back to the office. They don't. I mean, I don't. I'm in my office. I did go back to the office right here. It's in my basement. I had to commute from my bedroom where I was taking a nap before we got on this call. My commute is down 2 flights of stairs. Sometimes there's a dog at the bottom of the stairs, and I hate dealing with traffic like that. But you put up with it. But the internet makes so many things possible. On out of the 12 people that we had on the call today, I think we had a total of like 28 cycled through the whole event. But out of the 12, we had 2 from England. We had 2 from Utah, of all places. I think 1 or 2 from Canada. We regularly will have people from 3 or 4 different continents, and can't do that without Zoom. Can't do that in person. A lot of people get on there couldn't afford to travel or wouldn't be allowed to travel. There's one person's regularly on the events from Venezuela. So I don't think that he could travel for love or money, because that's a challenging country. So, there's so much that we can do now because geography doesn't matter. And in the coaching space, coaching is all about exchange of ideas. You don't need to be physically near someone. And in fact, I've talked to a number of coaches that they prefer to coach on the telephone, not even on Zoom, but on the phone, because you're just distilled down to the ideas. You're not worried about what you look like. You're not worried about the other person's face, reading it. You're just hearing words and sharing words. And when I do coaching, I like doing it by phone as well for that same reason. It lets me focus on it. So, there's that benefit to some of these things. But for so much of what we do in the coaching space, it's about ideas. You don't need to be, I don't need to be in front of you for that. There is certainly a benefit to in person. When I was at that mastermind event, we connected at a level you don't connect at virtually. For one thing, even a multi-day summit, at the end of the day, you turn the Zoom off and you're done.
Right.
At the end of a mastermind or workshop or whatnot, at the end of the day, you stop, but you go out to the pool or the lobby or the bar or the restaurant. And that's not something you can reproduce virtually, because you're like, I've been on Zoom for 8 hours and I can be on Zoom for another 3 hours to hang out with you guys. So there is definitely a value for the in-person, but I got invited to the mastermind because I met the guy who ran it on Zoom. And I had a Zoom with him because I met him on a virtual event. So there's so much power and so much efficiency. When I was networking in person, it would take me an hour and 45 minutes for one meeting, including travel time. I could meet with, back when I was doing the magazine, I would meet with 3 people a day. I've met with as many as 8 people in a day, plus gone to an event with Zoom. And so just so much more you're able to do now that it's not face-to-face driving all over town.
Yeah, it is really efficient when it comes to that. And I was actually talking to someone a couple days ago, and she was asking me, so I'm in healthcare, I'm a behavioral optometrist, and she was saying, what's different now? What do we need to do to keep the profession going? And I said, well, we're going virtual. I've even done virtual eye exams. And I said, but there's still something lost there. You still need that in person once in a while. Once in a while, you need those touch points, if it's possible. Obviously, if someone's in Venezuela, you can't have those touch points. But if someone's local, at least once in a while, have those touch points where you can see the person, feel their energy. Really, there's nothing like in person.
Yeah, oh, totally. But at the same time, for things like the way that regular, PCP visits are going with your primary doctor, a lot of these visits are, you drive there, you sit in the lobby for an hour, so the doctor can come in and talk to you for 7 minutes, ask you a couple of questions, be like, all right, cool, we're upping your dosage to 12 milligrams, see you in 6 months. I needed to spend 2 hours to do that. So, if you're not going to give personal attention, you might as well give not personal attention over the internet.
That's right.
So, it depends on what you're doing. I mean, some things, like my daughter's in occupational therapy. And that's physical. Like, you got to do that in person because it's about moving her body in different ways. So that has to be there. But there's a lot of things, a lot of nutrition coaches, health coaches, they don't have to be there. They can, you can do the exercise and they can tell you from where they're sitting, which means they can charge less. So it doesn't have to, it makes it more accessible. So yeah, there's just so much opportunity in this space, as long as we recognize once you're in the virtual space, you got to build things that used to be organic, like the hallway.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of event organizers made the mistake of they took everything they were doing and put it online. They weren't doing the incidental networking. They weren't doing the hallway and the bar afterwards. What they were doing was the schedule on the stage. And they took the stage and they put it online and they made an awful virtual event.
Mm-hmm.
People still went to it because they're like, I've been to events before and I like them. And this looks like the same event, but online. How convenient. And so many people are like, I don't know why, but I just doesn't feel the same. Yeah, because it's not the same.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people will, you'll get these discussions online, on Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever. Do you like virtual networking or in-person networking? Which is kind of like, what do you prefer, strawberry shortcake or sports cars?
Uh-huh.
Like, they're not related or comparable things. But you hear people, what they complain about indicates a fundamental lack of understanding of what networking is. I saw that with my BNI groups I was part of. Or the BNI group I was part of when it went online. So the BNI is perfectly suited. BNI is Business Network International. For those who are not aware, it is a weekly networking group and it follows a specific structure. So you do this part of the meeting, then this and this. It's only one person speaking at a time. It's done like a meeting. Someone has the floor at any given point, and you go around and do your sales manager minute, commercial, whatever you want to call it, a 1 minute or 30-second spiel, and everyone goes around and does it. This converts perfectly to Zoom because as long as you know what order people are speaking in, it's great. There's no part of it you can't do except for the open networking. There's 15 minutes open networking at the beginning, but you can do that with breakouts. You can do that, and you're supposed to do one-to-ones anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it should convert perfectly to Zoom, and some chapters did it amazingly well. Our chapter did not do it very well. I mean, we followed the structure, but a lot of the members are like, this isn't the same. I don't feel like I'm making the same connections. Why? Because it was the Thursday morning coffee club.
Uh-huh.
They were going there to hang out with their friends in business, and occasionally they'd pass some referrals. They were not going there to do business and pass referrals. The social aspect was primary, and the referral aspect was secondary, and that got really called out on Zoom because the social aspect went away.
Mm-hmm.
And the what was left was the core of what BNI should be about. And so many chapters couldn't do it because they were the Tuesday morning coffee club, the Thursday morning coffee club. There's some chapter, I visited this chapter in Malaysia that was amazing. You would have thought they had a professional production crew in the booth because they had it on point and people go around explaining what their job is. It sounded like an announcer, as the vice president, my job is da, 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 da. I'm like, holy mackerel, this is a BNI group? Or is this a reality show about a BNI group? It's amazing. So, because of course, when you put out, hey, I'd like to visit from another country, the groups that don't have their act together aren't going to raise their hands and say, come visit my group. It's terrible. It was all the groups that said, yeah, my group's amazing. Come see it. So, that was really cool. But so many of them were more focused on the social. And when you hear people talk about, yeah, I don't really like virtual networking because you don't really get the chance to have the same level of authentic conversation and really get to know somebody. Well, if you're networking correctly in person, you also don't have the chance to have authentic conversation or really get to know somebody. Because if you go to a 2-hour networking event and you're talking to someone for 25 minutes, you're doing it wrong. The purpose of a networking event is to meet a high quantity of people to find the highest quality ones you want to follow up with afterwards. You have very limited time in the event. You got to keep moving. But when you're at a space with wine and hors d'oeuvres and people, you feel like you're at a party. So you get your glass of wine, you get your hors d'oeuvres, you find some people you like, and you talk to them for the entire night. And you say, that was a great event. I feel good about that.
Uh-huh.
Especially when you're doing it on your boss's dime.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people, those events are there because their boss pays for it. Nobody knows what the KPI is. Nobody knows how you should measure it. They're just there to, be at a networking event because you're supposed to do that. So they do that. And then you ask them, so what's your goal here? How can I help you? What are you trying to do? And they say things like, well, I'm just looking to get out in the community and see who's here. I'm like, well, I can help you with that. That guy's here and that guy's here and she's here and he's here and he's here and she's here. Done. Mission accomplished. Enjoy your wine.
Uh-huh.
But
Well,
they're not there to do what they're there for. And then you go online and it's just like, it's there about making the connections, triaging, figuring out who you want to follow meetings with. And they're like, this isn't much fun. Yeah. That's why it's called network. It should be fun. I have fun networking. Done right, it should be fun, but it's still business. It still should be, work. Taking me a long time to come to this point to realize business isn't always fun. But if I can say that business is supposed to be work before it's fun, then it's really true.
So let me ask you this. So when you go to a networking event, so there's the old traditional form, family, occupation, recreation, money, right? Should we go and do that? Or is everyone tired and bored with that? I mean, how do you network?
I'm tired and bored with that. So arguably it can work. It depends on the kind of person you're talking to, but it depends what you're trying to do and what the goal is and why you're networking. So if you are networking because you're trying to build a network and just sort of have a set of resources available, forum can be okay. But if you're going to an event, especially if you're paying for it yourself, yeah, you paid $25 or whatever to be there. You're there in the evening when you could be home with your family. You should be doing, if you want to socialize. Find a game store, go to a board game night, hang out at a bar. If you're at a networking event, you should have some reason to be there, some kind of goal. You're trying to find a client. You're trying to have backup options for your career. You're trying to have a collection of vendors so that when your house needs something, you got something. You should have some idea in mind of what you want to do. Mm-hmm. All the form stuff, to me, is placeholders for value. So the reason I want to know that you care about me and my family and remember my birthday and send me a Father's Day card and whatever is that is a marker that should I need you, you'll be there because, we're doing the kind of things friends do. And that's what friends do is they're there for each other. So that if you need something, you can ask me because you've built up that capital and I feel like I can ask you because you've built up that capital. To me, as a extrovert with ADHD, that seems like a lot of work. So I just provide value up front. So when I get on a call with someone, I'm trying to find out how can I help them? Who can I introduce them to? Can I invite them to speak on my summit? Can I give them an introduction? Can I point them to a resource, recommend a book, whatever? Give them some kind of value right there on the call. So then if after the call, because I've overcommitted myself, I forget that we spoke, which has been known to happen more than once, they remember me because I did something for them. I don't send thank you cards. I don't have a send out cards account. I don't send birthday cards. Those things are great. People who do them. That's why I always say introverts are better networkers because they're all up on that stuff because they don't want to have to meet more people. They're like, oh God, I got to meet more people. So much work. The extrovert, I'm like, I get to meet more people. Woohoo! I'm disciplining myself to meet less people because I need to do more with the people I have, not meet more people. But if I'm going to meet someone, I'm going to try to provide this value up front. So when I cross paths with them again, they say, oh, thank you so much for that meeting, for that introduction. That's so valuable. Or like you came to an event and you met some people. You had a great experience. You got value out of it, as did a number of other people who I could not name. But I provided value up front to them. So I've already put the value in that in the social bank account. So I do that instead of the placeholder stuff. I don't ask about family and friends and dogs and cats and hobbies and whatever, because now I'm interested in people's stories. I'm interested in knowing, how did you get into that? What do you like best about it? That kind of stuff. That is actually interesting to me. But most of the forum stuff, I don't care. I just don't care. If I'm at a business event, I'm there for business. And before I learn your life story, I want to know if you're someone I want to do business with. Because otherwise, I just learned life story of someone I don't want to work with. And that was not an effective use of time. Right? I mean, there's something to learn from everybody, and everybody's valuable, and that's true. But the people I do want to work with also have interesting stories. I can learn from them instead of the people I have just no interaction with. So, yeah, I'm a fan of have a clear idea of what it is you want to do. What is your goal? And, why are you there? And beyond that, who can help you to achieve that goal? So it's actually there's 5 steps in networking I teach. And the first one is know your goal. Both your big goal, like I want to live in the mountains with 52 golden retrievers. I don't want either of those things, but it's an example. But know what your big goal is and your small goal. I want to get 5 new clients this month. I want to get 1 new client from this event. I want to make $10,000 a month, whatever. Know what the goals are. And then second, know who can get you there. Both who can help get you there, like my ideal client is XYZ, and 5 of them will get me there. Or who could individually wave their hand. Whatever goal you have, there's someone out there who's got the power probably to just make it happen. If your goal is to raise $10 million for your startup, there's someone out there who can write a check for $10 million. So you should first ask who could single-handedly solve this, and then work down to who could collaboratively solve it. Because if you could meet Richard Branson and just get a 20-minute conversation, you could explain this and he'd be pumped about it. Well, then why are you asking for introductions to small investors when you should be saying, hey, I got this thing going on. I'm super excited about it. Richard Branson would love it. And I'm just waiting to get a connection to him. Mm-hmm. And someone might say, oh, you know what? He would love that. And I actually met him 6 months ago. I could probably connect you. Mm-hmm. But if you don't say it, you're not going to get it. And the third part of it that's so important is compelling vision. So a lot of us know our goals. A lot of us might even know who can help us achieve their goals. But then we don't have the compelling vision. So, for example, my goal for JV Connect might be to get 200 people to buy tickets. This is exciting to me because I know how much money that's worth. This is not exciting to you. You don't care. You're not getting that money. But the vision is I want to create a networking space where we can create $25 million of value collectively in the room, and where everyone leaves with as many appointments on their calendar as they want to the people they need to meet that could generate over $100,000 of value for every single person there, including you, and we're going to have fun doing it. That's a compelling vision. Mm-hmm. That's far more interesting than my goal of 200 tickets sold. Same thing. 200 tickets sold creates that vision. But, so it's about having that compelling vision, and then the other 2 steps of the 5-step process is have your tools together and always be moving the conversation forward. So know how you're going to introduce yourself when you go there. Have business cards. Have a calendar page to book appointments on. Have all the things there. So when you're talking to people and they say, yes, I want to help you, don't be like, write down your business and your number on my hand. Have all the tools together that you need to, step 5, always move the conversation forward. So when you're talking to someone at an event, you want to book to a one-on-one call. On the one-on-one call, you want to move to a planning meeting where you bring in your assistant and their whatever, always saying what is the next step to advance this process. But the first 3 are the most important because that's what you do right there in the room. It's be clear on your goal, know who can support that goal, and then have a compelling vision. Because when you have those 3 things, you're interesting to talk to. If somebody comes to me and they're really interested, because I do not enjoy that in the networking meeting. Someone's like, yeah, so where are you from originally? I don't care, and neither should you. It's on my Facebook page, I guess, if you want to look it up, but I don't care, and neither do you. You're asking it to be polite. Now, you're also asking to find common ground. Maybe you're from the same place I am. Maybe, yeah, so what are your hobbies? Because you're hoping I'll say a hobby that you have, now something to talk about. Mm-hmm. But I don't really want to talk about science fiction at a networking event. I've gotten really into Bible scholarship, theology lately. That's great. That's a rabbit hole that'll pull me away from what I'm there to do. So yes, we can discuss all kinds of things about the theories of how canonical or Paul's writing compared to Jesus's writing, and were these designed to be universal concepts or specific to the individual church's writing to. This is all really fascinating stuff, and I could talk about it for hours, and it will not make me a cent, because it's not what we're here for. We're here to do business. No, I suppose I could impress someone enough that they hire me to come speak somewhere or something like that if they're really into it. So it could come up, but I don't want to have those secondary conversations. On the other hand, if someone comes, we're talking, and they say, well, yeah, what I'm working on is this thing, and it's going to revolutionize the way people network online. It's this amazing new platform that blah, 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 blah. And I'm super excited because we're really going to change all this. and all I need is to connect with these people. I'm going to be like, tell me more, tell me more, tell me more. How can I help you? Their excitement becomes my excitement. They could have something that I won't make a nickel off of, but I'm passionate, but they're so passionate, I become passionate. That's who I want to talk to at a networking event, because it's the people who are really the visionaries, the ones who are changing the world. Don't talk to me about, my dogs and cats. I don't want to talk about my dog or cats. I want to talk about how you're changing the world. Failing that, I want to talk about how you can help me change the world. But let's do what we're here to do. I think also to some degree, the reason we slide into this, like, don't talk about just business, is a lot of people hate their businesses. There's entrepreneurs and there's business owners. An entrepreneur is someone who, if they weren't doing this, they'd be doing something else also in a business. If I weren't a connector and event planner, I might be doing something with network marketing, or I might be doing something with, I don't know, in-person management. I'd be doing something in entrepreneurial space. It's not like, if I'm not doing this, I'll go find a job. I expect I will never go get another job, because why would I do that? Whereas a business owner is someone who, if they could make the same money and have the same opportunity without owning a business, they'd be all over it. But if you're a carpenter, a plumber, an electrician, a lawyer, an accountant, any of those kinds of things, you can't have anywhere near the income opportunity or the freedom working for someone else that you can working for yourself. Well, not freedom, because generally they work themselves to the bone. But if you're an electrician, then the income ceiling is so much lower on an employee than it is on a business owner. So they have to be business owners. But they don't love owning a business. They love what comes with it. The business owning thing is usually not what they're into, because entrepreneurs, we have the problem of we keep chasing after new opportunities to get excited about so many of them. While business owners, entrepreneurs are business owners, technically, and business owners are entrepreneurs, but entrepreneurs tend to be entrepreneurial. We want to take risks. We're excited by the game. So when you're in a networking, like when I was down to that mastermind in Orlando, that was full of entrepreneurs. They want to talk about business morning, noon, and night because they were excited about it, because they're doing something. They're changing the world one way or another. You go to most Chamber of Commerce events, people are changing light bulbs and changing pipes and changing their socks. They're not changing the world, just how they make their living. And they don't, they don't want to talk about it because, like, I had a tough day at work. I want to talk about something else. Cool, but that's not how I want to network with. I want to network with people who they're so excited about what they're doing. They're so passionate. They'll talk about it morning, noon, and night. Because who wants to network with someone who hates what they do?
For sure. So you mentioned having your tools and business cards. So I wanted to talk more about business cards. So we have our basic paper business card. But then people have these electronic ones where they, you put your phone next to their phone and their business card just arrives on your phone. And the other question is, what should be on our business card? Because sometimes people have a lot of services, different things they do. What should be on a business card? What kind of business card should we have at this point?
If you're doing in-person networking, you should have paper business cards. And here is why. Because they always work. And they always work the way someone receives it. Here's the thing. 19 out of 20 business cards you give people are wasted. That's just how it is. A lot of people ask your business card to be polite. They'll ask for a business card, but they don't get a follow-up system, so they lose it, whatever. Those don't matter. The 1 out of 20 matters. The business card you give someone like me who knows what to do in networking is the one that matters. If I meet someone at a networking event and we got 5 minutes to talk to each other and you don't have a business card, then it is entirely possible we will never follow up because I don't have your contact information, even if you have the digital one. So you give me your actual business card, it goes in my actual pocket, and I will actually find it either a few days later or the next day when I follow up, or 6 months later, I'm going through that pocket again later, and we might connect. But if I ask someone for their business card and they say, oh, I don't have one, I don't care what comes after that phrase. I think less of you. I don't care if you say, oh, I'm using this super cool thing. Oh, cool. So you're a sucker for technology that is unreliable. Neat. Good for you. I'm not impressed by your used technology. Now, I use technology all the time. I'm all over ChatGPT. I think it's amazing. I think AI is an amazing tool. I'm on Zoom. I'm all for technology. But sometimes the best technology is the simplest. And a business card is very, very effective technology. So business card lets the person who receives the business card take the initiative. Now, a lot of people use the digital cards because the digital card makes, when I scan your card, I have to put in my information. And now you've got it. Now it's in a CRM system. It can do a follow-up sequence and all this. So that's why they want it. It gives them control instead of them, instead of the other way. But there's a few problems with digital business cards. I was at an event down in Miami why are all the events in Florida? It is so hot, so hot. Anyway, I've now been to 4 events in Florida in the last year and a half, 3 of them in the last 6 months. Anyway, I was down in Miami and I'm watching these 2 guys. They're meeting during a 5-minute break at an event. And I can see from 10 feet away, they're using digital business card. Why? Because they are hunched over both of their phones, one phone over the other phone, trying to read the QR code. Now, how's it supposed to work? How's it work in the commercials? Boop. We've shared information. Yay. How's it work in real life? Yeah, just scan this QR code. Oh, how do I scan a QR code on this phone? I don't know. I have an Android. That's an Apple, but I think on Apple, let's see. I think it's this button. Yeah, that looks like. Okay, let's try this. Okay, all right. Now, maybe pull it back forward a little bit. Or back. Now, forward. Okay, try pushing the button now. Okay, yeah, okay, now I got it. All right, good. It's loading. It's still loading. I don't have really good internet right here. I don't know. I think it's, we'll try. And on and on and on. You got 5 minutes to meet someone. If you spend 3 minutes in tech support, you do not make good use of your time. Assuming it works, what's it going to do? It's going to put your contacts in my phone. You know how many contacts on my phone? 3,000. You know how many of them I'm actually in contact with? 200. Because I just have contacts going back. I mean, every phone I have is updated into the next one. I have contacts going back to 1999 in my phone with, John L. and Fred Q. And I don't know who these people are, but they're there. I don't want to delete them because maybe I'll need them someday. So you'll be in there somewhere, alphabetized by name with no tags. You're better off being a business card in my pocket than being somewhere in there. Plus, and here's something people don't think about, a QR code is a URL. And a website, now most devices now have pretty good malware protection, virus protection, whatnot. But a random website, you never actually know what's on it. And a lot of the way around a lot of malware protection, if they can get you to click OK, then it could download things, it can install things, it can do all kinds of stuff, potentially. I'm not a hacker, so I don't know what the vulnerabilities of phones are. But I do know that if someone can get you to go to a random website and then click OK, then it can do stuff. You know what a paper business card can't do? Stuff. It's paper. So, I'm not necessarily telling people they should say, oh, I don't scan QR codes because I don't trust you, because we scan QR codes all the time, whatever. But that's always something I want people to think about is if I were a spy and I wanted to figure out a way to hack people's devices, I'd use digital business cards for that. Because you could totally, especially if you were a decently funded spy agency, by which I mean tens of thousands of dollars, not hundreds of millions, you could make something that looks like a digital business card, behaves like a digital business card, is a digital business card, and also has malware attached to it. And it wouldn't be too, well, I don't know how hard it would be, but it's in the realm of possibility that it could be done. So that's one more reason that I think that's worth avoiding. But the main thing is, remember, people don't remember what you say, they remember how you made them feel. If you spend 3 minutes doing tech support, they made you feel annoyed. And all you remember is like, oh, Bob, that's the guy with that annoying digital thing that I had to screw around with. I don't remember what he does. I just remember he's got that stupid business card. Or he doesn't have a business card. He's got that stupid digital QR code. As to what goes on your card, remember the purpose of a business card is you've had a conversation and someone has said, I would like to connect with you. How do I do that? And you hand them a card. So the answer to the question of what goes on your card is what serves that use case? Because that's the main use case of a business card. Now, they may come across your card 6 months later when they barely remember who you are. So what should go on your card? A picture is not a bad idea. I don't have a picture on mine, but I should. Picture's not a bad idea. So when they come across it 6 months later, they'll be like, oh, I remember this person. Name, business name, website, phone number, email address, contact information. You don't need a full list of your offerings. So you don't need like, I design websites and emails, blah, 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 blah. Because generally your title says that. You know, if you're a marketing strategist, I'm going to assume you probably do something with websites or emails or something like that. You know, a couple of words, like I use my business card has along the bottom, now my business card's 3 years old, 4 years old, but it's like coach, speaker, event organizer, network, or something else. So it's got a series of words that describe like the sort of things I do. But a business card is going to get you into a conversation. It's not going to sell it. It's not going to convert. So you can't put enough on there. But you could put a QR code. You know, if you like those digital cards, cool. Put a QR code on your physical business card. Then I can scan it at home when I'm on my Wi-Fi and I got good connection and I got the time to look at it. Because, you know, if we're talking, you're like, yeah, check out my digital card. Like, boop, okay, cool. Yeah, I'll look at it later. I don't want to look at your card right now. I can do that later. I got to talk to people to talk to. So, you know, QR code's fine, but it's whatever serves that use case of, yeah, I'd like to, let's connect. How can we follow up? Here. On the card should be everything you need to follow up. No one ever looked at a business card and be like, take my money, because they don't care. Now, sometimes quirky or unique business cards can be good for keeping attention. So like the plastic cards, the aluminum cards, the metal cards, those can be pretty cool, and they do make you more memorable, and that is a good thing. Not a fan of square cards, though, because, yeah, they stick out. Yeah, they stick out. So when I'm putting the cards back in my pocket, this one doesn't fit. Throwing it away because it's just physically annoying. When I have a stack of business cards to deal with and one of them doesn't fit, then it might go somewhere else. It doesn't get in the pile. You have to think about, again, the use case. Someone comes home with 20 business cards. How are they going to interact with them? Make sure it's easy to read. Don't put, you know, gray on black. Yeah, oh, it's so cool and slick, but I can't see it. And remember, your target audience is probably people over 40, mostly people over 50. So, you know, especially for the younger people, just because you can read it doesn't mean the old people can read it. And the old people got money. People can read your card are broke. People who, you know, the people who can't read it are the ones with the money. So make sure people can connect with you, because, you know, you go to an event, you meet 20 people, any reason to not follow up, they're going to take. They got 20. They're like, oh, I can't read this card, whatever. I got 19 more people to talk to. So, you know, that's what a business card is. You always just think about what the use case is. We do that a lot, is that we're like, oh, I need a website. So you either throw together a crappy website or you hire someone for too much money to get more website than you need, but you don't stop and think, what's this website supposed to do? I need a social media presence. What's the social media presence supposed to do? What's it for? Why do you have one? So, you know, what goes in your business card? How do you use a business card? And how should it work? But here's the thing that's important. How does it work ideally? Not how does it work most of the time? Because most of the time you're dealing with bad networkers who don't know what to do with it. So don't worry about them. It's the same as when you're like, I don't know if my prices are too, a lot of people tell me my prices are too high. Well, yeah, that's because they're not your customers. So I don't care if people who don't have money and don't need what I do say my price is too high. Because they're not the right people. You know, if you're offering me hairstyling services and I say the price is too high, well, I'm not your customer. I wake up this way. I brush it twice. So I don't need to pay. I'm not going to pay $100 for hairstyling services. I cut it occasionally and brush it. Done. I'm not your customer. Whereas someone who you know really cares about, you know, wants the hair and the this and the that and the insert hair terms here, so I sound like I know what I'm talking about, they'll pay $200. They are your customer. But don't let the people who don't do it right dictate what you do. So imagine you go to a network event. What do you want people to do with it? Now make the business card that will help them do that.
I love that. That was succinct. Good. Great. So if people, talking about connecting, if people want to connect with you, where do they connect with you? Find out about your books?
So they can go to guywhoknowsaguy.com. It's not theguywhoknowsaguy.com because I didn't get that website. It's www.guywhoknowsaguy.com. That is the main central website I have. Through there, you can find my books. You also search on Amazon for Michael Whitehouse and The Guy Who Knows the Guy and The View from the Deck. There are 2 Michael Whitehouses on Amazon. One of them has a beard and one of them does not. I have the beard. The one who does not writes horror. If you find horror novels, they're not mine. I don't write horrible. No, I don't write horrible novels. It's true. I don't write horror novels. Michael Whitehouse from England writes those. Michael Whitehouse from the US writes books on coaching and doesn't stuff. But so guyknowstheguy.com, I believe, has links to one or both of those books. You can find my events at summits.fun, because all summits should be .fun. And that's, you can find both applications if you're looking to speak and registration links if you're looking to attend. And then JV Connect, the best virtual networking event on the internet, is at jv-connect.com.
All right. Well, thank you. So now I have a personal question. What gives you the most happiness and fulfillment in your life right now?
Ooh. Interesting question. I would have to say it is watching my daughter develop into a real human. She is 9 now, and I took her with me down to Florida. She actually came to the mastermind for one of the days and then spent too much time in the pool and gave herself a headache. But like taking her on the road trip, we're 30 hours on the road, and watching her become more mature and thoughtful. I mean, she's still on her phone most of the time and loses her temper, and she's still 9. But watching her, seeing those wise, intelligent aspects begin to emerge is really cool. And also where things are going as my business is opening opportunities in my personal life, because my own growth and our financial improvement situation, creating more time with my wife and the potential of us working together, that's really exciting. And so kind of how that all is developing. And yeah, so I think that, and then also the community of amazing people I'm finding in the business world. The real treasures, the friends we make along the way. It's not just about the collaboration, how we make money together, but it's how we support each other and share ideas. And it's funny because people are always out there saying like, oh, people are so mean and nasty and selfish and blah blah. I'm like, what are you talking? Oh, right, you exist outside my bubble.
That's right.
Because my bubble is hundreds of amazing, heart-centered, abundance-minded people who are all trying to improve the world and don't believe in competition and want to work together and all these things. And it's enough of them that's my whole world. And occasionally I wander out of that world and talk to the public, and I'm like, ugh.
Oh.
It's a scary place to live. We must expand this bubble of joy and happiness, because I mean, and that's the thing, is it is something that could propagate, because it is people who are making money teaching people to make money and teach people to be more, live better lives and be more productive. And so it's not like, the nonprofit world isn't scalable, because as you do more, you need to get more funding from outside.
Right.
And so a lot of nonprofits grow and collapse because they can't do that. Whereas entrepreneurship scales on its own. So people are doing good things. It allows them to make more money, which allows them to help more people, which allows more people to do more good things, help more people. So, being part of that, spreading that movement is another thing that's very powerful. And the fact that I'm going to be able to raise my daughter knowing what I know. So, she'll be starting on third base. Stuff I took 20 years to learn, she'll be 18 and knowing it. So that's pretty exciting.
That is. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today and your wisdom, and people check out Summits.
Summits.fun, because all summits should be .fun.
That's right. So I have one last question before we complete. What is your best advice on living an incredible, amazing life?
Ooh, best advice for living an incredible, amazing life. I would say it is to embrace the idea that there is a plan for us, and that it is a benevolent plan. And some people say, well, what if there isn't? If I'm wrong, if I believe that there is a higher power, whatever we want to call that higher power, that has a plan for me and is guiding and supporting me, if I'm wrong and the universe is random and capricious, but I believe that there's someone supporting me, I'm going to take chances and push harder than I would otherwise, which means I'm going to achieve more success. If I'm right, then I'm simply taking advantage of the support that a higher power is giving me. But if you assume there's not, and you're right, well, then it sounds like a pretty tough life. If you assume you're not and you're wrong, then there's a higher power there trying to guide you and support you and help you. And you're like, nah, I got this. I'm good. Nah, why are things not working out? This is dumb. So accept the idea, embrace the idea that there is some, and you can call it whatever you want. You can call it God. You can call it the flying spaghetti monster. I don't care. But the idea that there is something benevolent, which is guiding, supporting, and propelling you, and that you have a purpose, and embrace the idea that you have some kind of purpose, whatever it is, and then embrace that and accept the confidence and empowerment and resiliency that will give you.
Great. Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you. It's been great to be on.
We'll talk to you again soon.